Have you ever thought about how you stay calm inside when you're around toxic people? We all want to keep connections that support and develop us. Therefore, it's a question that a lot of people ask themselves. But how are we going to do this? How can we defend our vitality and maintain our composure when those around us act negatively? Walking away from toxic individuals is not the only step in disengaging from them. It's about embracing a lifestyle that provides us with the desired level of tranquility. I'm going to walk you through 11 Stoic concepts today that will help you deal with toxic individuals in your life and ultimately help you liberate yourself from the emotional bonds of those that dehumanize you and keep you from living the life you deserve. Together, we will discover how to quit being victims of other people and take back control of our own life by learning how to remain inner peace even in the face of the most difficult obstacles. Now let's get going. First, work on developing emotional stability. When it comes to guiding you securely through the dark, emotional stability is like a lighthouse. It might sometimes seem like you're moving in a thick fog, where every step is unclear and clarity is fading when you find yourself surrounded by toxic people. However, what if I told you that it is possible to discover light in the shadows? Taking inspiration from Stoic principles, begin from inside, building the strength of your emotional stability. Imagine yourself in the middle of a furious storm, calm and collected despite all the commotion around you, like a lighthouse beaming brilliantly through the worst storms. This is about realizing that the only thing we really have control over is how we respond to the world around us, not about being cold or uncaring. Stoicism holds that responding appropriately, rather than attempting to achieve the impossibly difficult, is what gives us genuine strength. Thus, let us consider things from a Stoic viewpoint when we come into harmful conditions. Rather than becoming engaged in the dispute, let's pause to consider. It seems like you are in the middle of a hurricane when everything is crazy outside, yet everything is peaceful within. Just as the eye of the storm stays calm throughout the hurricane, so too is our mind the inner stronghold that withstands the assault of outward turmoil, as Marcus Aurelius so eloquently taught us. Our tranquility is guarded by our peaceful thoughts. We have room here to think, to breathe, and to act calmly and clearly thereafter. It's about turning our focus from the chaos outside to how we create inner peace. But how can we cultivate this change of emphasis? Through the discipline of mindfulness, which is now very popular, but has historically brought people peace for millennia to those who have practiced it. Being mindful helps us break free from the grip of chaos by enabling us to see it without becoming sucked into it, and to identify toxicity without letting it ruin our tranquility. It means realizing that these hardships will pass, just like a passing storm, and that they will too. When we feel pessimistic, let's not forget that we are the designers of our inner tranquility, building the stronghold that shields us from the tempest of emotions. Second, establish personal limits. Establishing limits is more about choosing which windows to open and when to open them than it is about building impregnable walls. You become the master of your own fate, rather than less human as a result of this deliberate choices. Think of your energy like sunshine on a gloomy day, a precious and finite resource. Every conversation you have is like allowing the sun to shine on your day. Which would you choose to share it with? People who nourish and encourage you, or those whose negativity dulls it? Setting limits in real life can only need you to develop your sense of self-prioritization. Establishing boundaries, for instance, entails firmly stating your own worth when you find yourself in a scenario where someone else is attempting to exploit your time and resources. It's a means of looking after your mental health and preserving harmonious, civil interactions. Being genuine and self-compassionate is a discipline of setting limits. It is about carefully defining the area where you grow and take care of yourself, not about erecting barriers. This deliberate activity helps you preserve your inner serenity while also exhibiting your self-awareness and sense of value. Consider this a calm statement of your dignity and value rather than a confrontational line. By deciding to draw the line and not allow anyone to pass you by, you are essentially saying, "I am valuable, I respect myself, and I prioritize myself." As a result, every day becomes an opportunity to reshape your life by concentrating your energies on the things that truly matter and help you advance. Establishing limits is a sign of intelligence and self-awareness, not selfishness. Draw the outline of your inner garden now and witness it grow into the seeds of your tranquility and genuineness. 3. Pay attention to your own objectives. Maintaining your focus on your own objectives is similar to discovering a way through a thick forest. Being with toxic individuals may make it easy to lose sight of your objectives and let their negativity derail you. But by focusing on your objectives, you create an impenetrable barrier that shields you from other influences and supports your ability to remain emotionally and cognitively clear. See yourself traveling a great distance over a labyrinth of interconnected routes. Despite the intricate and unexpected bends of the voyage, you have an internal compass in the form of your particular objectives. These objectives serve as lights that guide you through the most difficult and perplexing times. You may overcome the negative effect of criticism and judgment from others by staying focused on your own life goals. Furthermore, concentrating on your objectives enables you to overcome any transient roadblocks that may appear. You regard them as challenges that give you strength to pursue your greatest aspirations rather than as obstacles. Ultimately, the ability to maintain focus on your own objectives is a crucial one that will help you overcome any obstacles in your path. Recall that reaching your objectives requires more than simply imagining them. You also need to take decisive action to get there. Establish attainable, manageable goals that will enable you to advance toward your bigger goals little by bit. Acquire the ability to distinguish between chances that can help you achieve your goals and distractions that are only surface level. Above all, never extinguish the spark of tenacity and resolve inside yourself. You are getting closer to realizing your aspirations with every step you take toward your objectives. You have the ability to tread this route with passion and dedication, so go ahead and take it. 4. Never be afraid to ask for assistance when you need it. Finding a route you weren't previously aware of may be revealed by discussing your troubles with someone who knows and values you, just as a seed budding in the earth can burst through the gloom. These are the individuals who bolster our determination by serving as a constant reminder of our inner strength rather than by taking on our struggles on our behalf. Envision a faithful companion at your side, imparting knowledge derived from mutual encounters. That type of priceless assistance may help us navigate through difficult circumstances with grace. In order to access our inner Stoic strength, we must discern which outside viewpoint is most beneficial. One of the main ideas of Stoic philosophy teaches us that while we cannot control other people's actions, we can control how we respond to them. The wise Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Associate with people who are better than you, and you will learn to improve. Surround yourself with people with whom you disagree, and you will learn to argue with them." Stoicism teaches us to take a step back and observe things more broadly, as if we could see the earth from above, like an eagle finding new pathways on a map that we would typically miss. Seeking help allows us to step back from the specifics and take a moment to ponder and breathe before carefully selecting a solution that is in line with our inner peace and beliefs. Now pause to consider your own experiences interacting with difficult individuals. How have you overcome these obstacles? Have you attempted to depend just on your own strength to get by, or have you looked for that encouraging viewpoint that has the power to transform everything? Recall that the real test of a Stoic is not suffering or quiet alone, but rather the ability to discern when and how to use the knowledge of those around us in order to proceed with more clarity and ease. 5. Practice self-compassion. In the intricate web of human interactions, cultivating compassion for oneself is analogous to nourishing the soul. We often overlook the fact that we should be entitled to part of the empathy we frequently show to others. It is easy to slip into the self-defeating cycle of self-criticism and self-doubt when we are in toxic situations. But making time to cultivate self-compassion is like tending to the seeds of self-love and self-respect, which are vital to our emotional health. We are invited to consider this essential principle by the renowned psychologist and philosopher Albert Ellis, who said, "Unconditional self-acceptance is the first step toward peace of mind. By accepting our flaws, we create a path toward a more harmonious relationship with ourselves and, consequently, with others." It's important to acknowledge our shortcomings with compassion and make an effort to improve rather than to ignore them. We learn to treat ourselves with the same compassion and tolerance we would give a loved one, rather than punishing ourselves for our errors. It reminds us that we deserve respect and love from both ourselves and other people, and it gives us the ability to navigate life's difficult currents with an armor of compassion and sincerity. In the end, cultivating self-compassion requires deliberate choices in routine circumstances. For instance, take a minute to breathe deeply and acknowledge that you are a human being with both strengths and flaws when you are experiencing internal self-criticism. Give yourself permission to be nice to yourself and provide the same assistance that you would to a friend who is going through a tough time. This act of self-compassion will improve your mental health and develop your bonds with other people in a deeper, more meaningful way. 6th, put yourself first while facing difficult circumstances. Taking care of our mental and emotional well-being requires time and work, especially when we are among toxic individuals. This entails establishing routines that give us confidence and enable us to confront obstacles with resilience and clarity. By doing this, we have a strong base from which we can handle any circumstance that arises. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, counsels his friend Lucilius in one of his letters saying, "Take care of yourself. Your own well-being is a duty." The Stoic sage emphasizes in his remarks the significance of putting self-care first as a necessary task in the quest for a fulfilling existence. By prioritizing our health and taking care of ourselves, we set the bar for how we want to be treated by others. This safeguards our mental and emotional well-being by enabling us to identify and avoid harmful relationships. In trying circumstances, emotional stress management is essential to preserving our mental health. Various unpleasant reactions might be triggered by toxic persons and challenging relationships. It's critical to learn practical coping mechanisms like deep breathing, meditation, and consistent exercise in order to handle this stress. These exercises assist us in maintaining our composure and attention even in stressful circumstances. Taking care of our bodily needs is just one aspect of self-care. It entails fostering our interpersonal connections as well. We cultivate an atmosphere that supports our emotional well-being when we actively seek out beneficial interactions and establish clear boundaries with harmful individuals. By surrounding ourselves with wholesome, caring people, we create a solid support system that gets us through trying times. This practice gives us a feeling of community and connection to people, which are crucial components of a happy and healthy existence, in addition to assisting us in maintaining emotional stability. According to Stoic beliefs, self-care turns into an essential instrument for maintaining inner tranquility and mental strength at all times. We follow the Stoics' road toward a more fulfilling existence by putting our bodily, mental, and emotional well-being first. This technique enables us to remain resilient and composed in the face of life's obstacles, keeping our morality and emotional equilibrium even under the most trying circumstances. 7th, develop emotional distance. Learning to detach our emotions from outside influences is a step on the path to inner freedom that is emotional detachment. It's similar to seeing a river from the shore. We can see it moving, but we resist being totally swept away by its current. This ability gives us a useful weapon for staying composed and rational in the face of poisonous individuals or uncontrollably bad circumstances. In these situations, emotional distance becomes essential, as the renowned psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl has shown us. He reminds us, based on his personal experience in the concentration camp, that we always have the freedom to choose how to respond to situations beyond of our control. This idea is fundamental to Stoic teachings on self-mastery. We may protect our inner tranquility and develop a feeling of independence, as well as a stronger capacity for calm response to any hardship by engaging in emotional detachment exercises. Nelson Mandela is another remarkable figure who chose to forgive his oppressors and emphasize rapprochement as a means of achieving personal healing and societal peace in the face of adversity, finding strength in the face of hardship. It is essential to understand the emotions that impact us and acknowledge that they do not define who we are in order to use detachment in our everyday lives. To learn to be aware of our emotions without responding on impulse, we may practice mindfulness or meditation. Regular self-analysis and reflection are crucial for understanding the underlying reasons of our emotions and our responses to them. Understanding our own cognitive processes and emotional inclinations might help us get better at separating ourselves from them and making decisions that are more thoughtful and morally sound. Additionally, seeing a therapist or mentor may provide priceless direction throughout this journey of self-discovery. To put it simply, emotional detachment enables us to firmly hold on to our inner truth and fend against the harmful influence of others. Connecting with the teachings of the Stoics offers us a way to achieve self-realization and inner tranquility. 8. Pay attention to your inner monologue. It's remarkable how our inner dialogue can either be our strongest ally or worst enemy when interacting with toxic individuals. Think of your mind as a stage where each self-perception idea you have is a key that opens and closes doors. We build our inner self by cultivating ideas of fortitude and strength. However, those negative effects might start to erode our self-assurance and mental health if we let doubts and concerns in. This is just one component of the equation, however. In situations when avoiding conflict or walking away from toxic individuals is not an option, the age-old Stoic wisdom may provide us with essential insight. This philosophy tells us that how we choose to respond to our experiences matters more than what really occurs to us. Stoicism serves as a constant reminder that our answers are what give us real strength. Therefore, it is essential to be aware of our internal conversation when exposed to the harmful influence of others. We may change the question to one that is more powerful. What is the lesson or teaching I can take away from this situation? Rather of reverting to the depressing one, why do I have to? This little shift in the way we speak to ourselves has the power to drastically alter both our outlook and our capacity for overcoming hardship. Recall that having control of your inner strength is more important than just using words to alter your perspective on things. Detachment is another useful tactic you might use, utilizing internal dialogue as an ally, an act with enormous transforming power despite its little appearance. This detachment is a deliberate decision about where to direct our energies, not aloofness or apathy. Consider unfavorable comment as a strong wind that won't topple a well-constructed home. It's the same with remarks. If you practice detachment, they won't negatively impact you. Though sometimes you may sense their influence, keep in mind that they can only have an effect on you if you allow them to. Building emotional barriers is not the definition of detachment. Rather, it is accepting your own worth and exercising self-control over your responses. Think for a moment. How much do you let the negativity of other people affect your mood and how you see yourself? To control this is to maintain your inner calm and mental clarity throughout emotional storms, not to become numb. By doing this, you realize that you are in charge of your responses and feelings, and you exercise the control you have always had over your own life. Stoic philosophy serves as a reminder that our decisions about how to respond to situations are what really give us power. It is about preserving inner balance and honesty as we make our way through the rough seas of life, not about cutting ourselves off from the outside world or from human interactions. We approach a deeper and more genuine life where our judgments and actions are molded by our inner knowledge rather than by outside influences, by incorporating these lessons into our everyday lives. 9. Pay attention to the fix rather than the issue. When we interact with toxic individuals, we may experience a tornado of discomfort and irritation, but there is a way out. By taking a solution-focused stance, we can better control these encounters. We have the ability to turn bad emotions into opportunities for personal growth and emotional intelligence development, rather than letting them bring us down. This entails answering coolly and listening more than speaking. Think about the elastic but solid nature of a riverside reed. It never breaks. Instead, it bends with the water. We may learn from the reed's behavior how to handle poisonous relationships by taking a strong position on our principles while being adaptable to the reed's shifting ways. Together, they enable us to successfully manage challenging relationships without sacrificing our moral principles. We are capable of withstanding emotional assaults and becoming stronger in the process to weather any interpersonal storm, much as the reed bends with the flow but never breaks. Stoicism ultimately teaches us that how we choose to understand and react to external events determines our inner calm rather than those circumstances themselves. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and Stoic philosopher, said, "You have the power of your mind, not of the events around you." This quotation emphasizes the need of concentrating on what we can control, our own actions and emotions. Regardless of the people or circumstances we encounter, we may develop more inner strength and calmness by using this attitude. 10. Use your energy carefully. Getting through the minefield of toxic relationships may be difficult for even the most composed brains. Now, however, let's change our attention and investigate the idea of energy intelligence. Think of your energy as an imperceptible barrier, like to a medieval knight's armor, that keeps you safe. Your inner tranquility is protected from outside influences by this strong barrier. Think about the freedom of choice you have in these circumstances. You have the ability to choose how to react and interact with people who influence your energy, just as you choose the plants and materials to build a garden and determine the health and bloom of the flowers that grow there. Choosing to walk away or to respond with empathy and understanding may help you maintain emotional equilibrium and maximize your well-being. Attempting to comprehend the motivations behind the other person's poisonous conduct is a necessary part of empathy and understanding, and may keep you composed and prevent you from being engrossed in their negativity. However, you may create appropriate boundaries and safeguard your mental health by leaving the environment or the poisonous person. You may save your energy and keep a happy attitude on life by using both of these tactics. This is about arming yourself with knowledge to make choices that increase your inner calm, not about dodging difficulties. Beyond self-control, this energy intelligence may be used. It entails building an inner environment that can withstand even the most severe life storms and is as sturdy as a medieval fortification. Envision yourself at a business meeting where you have to work with a nasty and critical person. In this case, how may energy intelligence be applied? Keep your cool and reply to their unceasing criticism in a polite and appropriate way. Set boundaries for what you think appropriate, or request a little break to clear your head if you feel that their words are starting to sap your vitality. By doing this, you may preserve your mental health and keep everything in proportion. Value yourself, number 11. I want you to keep in mind something very important. You are very valuable, and no other person has the power to poison you. It's as if you are forgetting that. I am here to remind you, nonetheless, that you are a remarkable and unique entity with boundless potential and immeasurable worth. Refrain from allowing the views of others to define who you are. Your individuality is what makes you stand out. Recall the lesson the Stoics imparted to us. Your worth is derived from your own perception of yourself, not from what other people think of you. Thus, take a position, eliminate all uncertainties, and acknowledge your grandeur. Dare to use your personal bravery to illuminate the planet. You have the ability to take on any task and go beyond any barriers in your way. You have the power to change the world and leave a lasting impression wherever you go, making you a special force in it. Have confidence in yourself, acknowledge your value, and steadfastly pursue your objectives and aspirations. Never lose sight of the fact that you deserve success, love, and respect. You have limitless potential and an indisputable value. With all you have, take on the world, find your inner strength, and let your deeds to speak for you. Remember this chat and the Stoic advice we impart if you ever question yourself. Every day in life is a chance to develop and improve. How many times have you asked yourself what your true worth is? I'm not talking about how much money you have, but about the intrinsic value that each of us carries today. Let's explore in depth what the great sage philosopher has to teach us about building and recognizing our value. This video is a journey through the Stoic ideas that Seneca shared millennia ago, but which still serve as a guide for us today. Let's find out how his philosophy can be applied in practice so that we can face challenges and live with more purpose and meaning. Have you ever felt lost, not knowing what steps to take in life? Do you sometimes feel that something is missing, a sense or direction? This video is especially for you. Here we'll learn how to strengthen our self-esteem and make decisions that reflect our true selves. Watching this video will not only enrich your knowledge of Seneca and Stoicism, but will also give you practical tools to cultivate a more authentic and valued life. Seneca's wisdom can help transform your perspective on life, offering clarity in times of uncertainty. Get ready to dive into content that not only informs, but transforms. Stay with us until the end, absorb these valuable teachings, and start building unshakable value in your life from today. Before you start, I ask you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos. And if you're interested, at the end of the video, you can access our exclusive content in the comments. Without further ado, let's go. Start. When we talk about building our personal value through Seneca's vision, we're diving into an ocean of Stoic wisdom that stands the test of time. Seneca, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, teaches us that true value does not lie in material wealth or social position, but in the development of character and the pursuit of virtue. For Seneca, the idea of personal value is closely linked to self-knowledge. He believes that truly knowing yourself is the first step towards cultivating a life of meaning and purpose. This process of introspection allows us to understand our passions, fears, and above all, our virtues. By getting to know ourselves, we can begin to consciously work on our weaknesses and strengthen our virtues, which in turn increases our personal value. At the heart of Seneca's teachings is virtue, the idea that living ethically and morally not only benefits us individually, but also has a positive impact on our community and society as a whole. Virtue for Seneca means being just, having self-control, being courageous and wise. These qualities are not innate. They are skills that can and should be cultivated through practice and conscious effort. This search for virtue leads us to a more authentic and meaningful life, because instead of getting lost in superficial desires or seeking external approval, we focus on strengthening our inner character. This is the true value that Seneca encourages us to build, a value that cannot be taken away by external circumstances, but which is intrinsically ours. Reflecting on these principles can be incredibly powerful. Imagine what your life would be like if you could wake up every day knowing that you are living according to your deepest values and cultivating virtues that enrich not only your life, but also those of the people around you. This not only raises your own value in their eyes, but also increases the respect and admiration that others have for you. By understanding and applying Seneca's fundamentals of personal value in our daily lives, we open up a path to a fuller and more satisfying existence based on authenticity and true self-esteem. This challenges us to look beyond the superficial and to seek a life that is truly worth living, based on virtue and self-knowledge. Self-control and self-discipline are concepts that, although often mentioned in discussions about success and personal well-being, can be misunderstood or underestimated in their importance. These qualities are not just about restricting desires or avoiding temptations. They are fundamental to building a full and meaningful life, a life that reflects our true values and aspirations. Self-control is, at its core, the ability to direct our energies and actions consciously, choosing responses rather than reacting impulsively. Imagine you're in a stressful situation. Self-control is that inner voice that says, breathe, think, don't act rashly. It's the ability to pause when everything around you calls for a quick reaction, allowing you to make decisions based on principles and logic, not raw emotions. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is the daily practice of aligning your actions with your long-term goals, even when this is difficult or less appealing. It's choosing to exercise regularly, even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing to save money instead of spending it impulsively. Self-discipline is not about deprivation, but about consciously choosing a less pleasurable path at the moment in exchange for a greater reward in the future. These two virtues are interdependent. Self-control provides the basis for exercising self-discipline. Without the ability to control momentary impulses, it is difficult to maintain disciplined practices over time. And as you practice self-discipline, your self-control strengthens, because you get used to making deliberate choices rather than giving in to every impulse. The real beauty of self-control and self-discipline lies in their application in various aspects of life. In health, they help maintain balanced diets and exercise routines. In finances, they encourage long-term planning and prudent management of resources. In relationships, they promote patience and understanding, which are fundamental for healthy and meaningful interactions. In addition, developing self-control and self-discipline frees us from many of the emotional traps that can sabotage our progress. They allow us to live with integrity, making choices that reflect who we are and who we want to be. This, in turn, builds a sense of self-worth and confidence that is not easily shaken by external circumstances. Cultivating these qualities is a path to true freedom. Seneca's freedom not being the absence of rules, but the ability to consciously choose the right path, even when it is the most difficult. By developing self-control and self-discipline, you not only improve your life in a practical way, but you also align yourself more closely with your deepest values, living authentically and deliberately. So, as we work to strengthen our self-control and self-discipline, we are actually building the foundations for a life that is fuller, richer, and truly ours. It's an investment worth every effort, because its fruits are the peace of mind and satisfaction that come from living not as we react impulsively, but as we consciously decide to be. Now that we've understood a little about self-control and self-discipline, let's talk about self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is one of those expressions we hear a lot, especially when it comes to personal development. But have you ever stopped to think about the real impact that self-knowledge can have on your life? This journey of discovering who we really are isn't just an introspective adventure. It's an essential tool that shapes all areas of our lives, from interpersonal relationships to our career choices. Self-knowledge allows us to understand our own thoughts, emotions, desires, and above all, our limitations and potential. Knowing who you are and what really matters to you is not a luxury, it's a necessity if you want to live a life that is truly yours. This means recognizing your strengths and knowing how to capitalize on them. It also means recognizing your weaknesses, not to be self-critical, but to work on improving them, or at least learning how to work around them. For example, think about how emotions influence your decisions. Without self-knowledge, we can be impulsive, making decisions based on momentary emotional states that may not reflect our true values or long-term goals. With a deep understanding of yourself, however, you begin to understand why you feel the way you do and how it affects your actions. This level of insight is powerful. It not only helps you to avoid emotional pitfalls, but also to make choices that are in line with your most authentic goals. Self-knowledge also improves our relationships. When you understand your own triggers and preferences, it becomes easier to communicate this to others, avoiding misunderstandings and unnecessary conflicts. In addition, truly knowing yourself can help cultivate empathy, because by recognizing your own struggles, you can better identify with the difficulties of others, fostering deeper and more meaningful relationships. In practice, cultivating self-knowledge can be a challenge. It requires time, brutal honesty, and often the willingness to face up to aspects of yourself that you might prefer to ignore. But the rewards are worth the effort. Imagine making decisions with confidence because you know they are aligned with your deepest self. Imagine feeling stable and grounded even when the world around you is in chaos, because you know what you can control and what you must let go of. Methods for increasing self-awareness include meditation, reflective writing such as keeping a journal, and even therapies that help explore the psyche. Each of these methods can, in our daily lives, transforming challenges into opportunities for growth and personal empowerment. Self-control, for example, is essential in times of pressure or when we are faced with situations that can easily lead to irritation or discouragement. Imagine you're at work and you receive a criticism that seems unfair. The natural response might be to react defensively or in frustration. However, by applying self-control, you can take a moment to breathe deeply, allowing yourself to process the information calmly and rationally. Not only can this help clarify the situation, avoiding misunderstandings, but it also demonstrates maturity and professionalism. Self-discipline, on the other hand, shows its value when applied to the consistency of our habits and routines. For example, it can be tempting to skip an exercise session after a tiring day. However, the regular practice of self-discipline helps us to maintain consistency, knowing that each small effort contributes to a greater good. This applies not only to physical health, but also to our mental health, such as making time every day for meditation or reading, activities that strengthen our mind and spirit. In addition, self-control and self-discipline are crucial for personal financial management. Avoiding impulsive spending and consciously planning purchases are practices that rely heavily on these skills. By exercising self-control in purchasing decisions and maintaining self-discipline in budget monitoring, you can achieve financial security that brings peace of mind and freedom to focus on other aspects of life. In personal relationships, these virtues help to maintain a harmonious environment. When we are disciplined in keeping calm and controlling our words, even in heated discussions, we build bridges instead of creating barriers. This not only resolves conflicts more effectively, but also strengthens emotional bonds, showing others that we value the relationship above momentary disagreements. Therefore, practicing self-control and self-discipline is not simply about restriction, but about deliberately choosing a path that leads to a more balanced life in line with our values. By incorporating these practices into everyday life, we not only improve our ability to deal with adverse situations, but we also prepare ourselves to live more fully and satisfactorily. Resilience is one of those qualities that everyone recognizes as valuable, especially when facing adversity. It goes hand in hand with the self-control and self-discipline we've already discussed, forming a powerful triad that can help us navigate life's most challenging moments. The practical application of resilience manifests itself when we are able to face difficulties, learn from them, and move on without losing hope or determination. Consider, for example, a setback at work, such as a project that didn't go according to plan or a promotion that didn't happen. Resilience encourages us to look at these situations not as definitive failures, but as opportunities for growth and learning. Instead of letting themselves down, a resilient person analyzes what happened, identifies what can be improved, and tries again with more experience and knowledge. This ability to start again is fundamental. Think about how you deal with mistakes or failures. Being resilient doesn't simply mean passively resisting or standing your ground. It means actively seeking solutions, adapting and turning adversity into a lever for personal development. This can mean asking for feedback to understand what didn't work, adjusting plans and strategies, and perhaps even looking for new resources or skills that can increase your chances of success in the future. In addition, resilience is deeply connected to social support. No one is an island, and our ability to be resilient is often strengthened by the support of the people around us. This can range from family and friends who offer a word of encouragement to mentors and colleagues who share their own wisdom and experience. By cultivating healthy and supportive relationships, we strengthen our emotional safety net, a practice that is vital for recovering in difficult times. Practicing resilience also involves taking care of your own physical and mental well-being. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle with regular exercise, a balanced diet, and enough time for rest and leisure are aspects that may seem disconnected from external adversity, but which actually form the basis on which our mental fortitude is built. While self-control and self-discipline help us stay the course in the face of temptations and daily challenges, resilience allows us to absorb impacts, learn from them, and emerge even stronger and wiser. This is not just a skill for times of crisis. It is an approach to life that enables us to face anything with hope and determination. Incorporating this resilience into everyday life not only makes it easier to handle adversity when it arises, but also prepares us to achieve our goals with renewed confidence and a more robust outlook. When exploring the application of the concepts of resilience, self-control, and self-discipline, it is useful to visualize how these concepts manifest themselves in real life through stories and anecdotes. These narratives not only illustrate the concepts in a concrete way, but also inspire us to implement them in our own lives. Consider, for example, the story of a young professional called Anna. She faced a major challenge when her work project, in which she had invested months of effort, was abruptly cancelled. Instead of letting her frustration get the better of her, Anna used this setback as an opportunity to develop her resilience. She asked for detailed feedback on the project, identifying areas for improvement and learning skills she had previously lacked. In addition, Anna volunteered to lead a new project, applying the lessons learned to avoid past mistakes. Her resilience turned a potentially negative experience into a springboard for professional and personal growth. Another useful anecdote comes from Carlos, a fitness enthusiast who had always struggled to maintain a regular exercise routine. Carlos discovered that by setting clear and specific goals and recording his progress on a daily basis, he could strengthen his self-discipline. He also set up an accountability group with friends who had similar fitness goals. This mutual support system not only helped him stay on track, but also motivated him not to give up on the days when the temptation to skip a workout was strongest. We also have the example of a teacher called Marta, who used self-control to better manage her stress in the classroom. She implemented a simple technique. Whenever she felt frustration rising, she would pause for 5 seconds to breathe deeply before responding to her students. This small practice helped her respond in a calmer and more controlled way, improving the classroom environment and her own emotional well-being. These everyday examples show how theory, when applied, turns into transformative practice. Each story is a testimony to the power of incorporating resilience, self-control, and self-discipline into our lives. These are not just abstract concepts. They are real tools that, when used consistently, can significantly improve our quality of life and help us achieve our goals more effectively. Taking inspiration from these stories and reflecting on how we can apply similar lessons to our own daily challenges encourages us to keep growing and evolving. In this way, every step, every small victory in our daily efforts contributes to a richer and more fulfilled life. Incorporating modern mindfulness and reflection techniques can be an exceptionally effective way to complement Cicero's teachings, especially when it comes to living a more conscious and intentional life. These modern practices not only echo the Stoic principles of self-knowledge and control of emotions, but also offer practical methods for achieving these goals. Mindfulness is the practice of being completely present and fully engaged in the present moment without judgment. It is a technique that teaches us to observe our thoughts and feelings without becoming emotionally attached to them, which resonates deeply with the Stoic approach of maintaining an emotional distance from externals. Cicero advises that we should accept what we cannot change and focus our energy only on the things that are within our control. The practice of mindfulness helps with exactly this, allowing us to recognize and accept our internal reactions to external events without being overwhelmed by them. In addition, mindfulness techniques can help cultivate the serenity recommended by Cicero when facing adversity. Meditation, a central practice in mindfulness programs, involves periods of silence and internal focus that can increase our awareness of our thought patterns and automatic reactions. This increased awareness is crucial to developing the ability to respond to life situations calmly and decisively rather than reacting impulsively. Reflection is another powerful practice that complements Cicero's teachings. By taking the time to reflect on our actions, decisions, and their impact, we engage in an internal dialogue that is fundamental to personal growth. Cicero himself was a proponent of reflective writing as a way of examining life and learning from it. Keeping a journal, for example, can be a modern extension of this practice, where writing about our daily experiences and the feelings they evoke helps us to cease and better understand our lives. Integrating mindfulness and reflection techniques into our daily routine can therefore broaden our ability to live according to Stoic values. These practices offer us concrete tools to develop the tranquility, resilience, and clarity of thought that Cicero valued so much. By adopting these techniques, we can find a new age in our journey of self-knowledge, allowing us to face life's challenges with renewed wisdom and a calmer heart. Managing expectations and ambitions is a crucial challenge in the quest for a balanced and contented life, and Stoic principles offer a valuable perspective on achieving this balance. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on self-control, acceptance, and the distinction between what we can and cannot control, guides us to shape our ambitions in a way that promotes inner peace and personal satisfaction. First of all, it's important to understand that having ambitions is not incompatible with contentment. On the contrary, the Stoics believed that we should aspire to be the best version of ourselves. However, the key is to align our goals with internal values rather than external results. For example, instead of fixating on getting a certain job or salary, focus on developing skills and work ethic. This adjustment of perspective allows us to work hard while maintaining peace of mind, knowing that we are doing the best we can within the circumstances we control. Another practical tip is to set goals that are realistic and within our direct reach. This involves an honest assessment of our capabilities and current situation. When our ambitions are too high or based on variables we don't control, such as other people's approval, we become prone to frustration and discontent. By setting more tangible goals and focusing on self-improvement, we reduce external pressure and increase satisfaction with our progress. In addition, the Stoic practice of daily reflection is a powerful tool for managing expectations. At the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on your actions and decisions. Ask yourself, did my actions today reflect my true values? What could I improve? This practice not only helps keep your ambitions in check, but also promotes a constant recalibration of your goals, ensuring that they remain aligned with your ideal life. Learning to celebrate small victories and finding contentment in daily progress is essential in our quest for great achievements. We often overlook the small successes that are fundamental to our journey. Each step towards a greater goal should be recognized and valued. This practice not only reinforces a sense of competence and progress, but also nurtures an attitude of gratitude that is central to Stoic philosophy. In short, balancing ambitions with contentment doesn't require us to renounce our dreams, but to approach them with wisdom, patience, and a deep alignment with our inner values. By adopting these practices, we can pursue our goals with vigor while maintaining our serenity and happiness on a daily basis. After reflecting on personal questions of value and how to apply Seneca's virtues in everyday life, it is important to move on to a phase of deeper discussion and reflection. This process allows us to digest the ideas we have explored and apply these concepts in an even more meaningful way. Discussion and reflection are essential for truly internalizing the teachings and ensuring that they become an integral part of our lives. Firstly, by reflecting on the previous questions, we begin to better understand not only our values, but also how we can live by them. This stage of reflection leads us to question more carefully in which areas of my life I am living according to my values and where I can improve. This question helps us to identify gaps between our intentions and our actual actions and is crucial for continuous personal growth. Another important question to discuss, either with yourself or in a support group or mentor, is: how can I maintain serenity in the face of challenges while remaining true to my Stoic principles? This reflection is fundamental to strengthening resilience and self-control, allowing us to face adversity with balance and wisdom. In addition, a discussion about the practical challenges of applying these teachings in everyday life can be extremely enriching. One might ask, what recent situations have tested my ability to remain faithful to the Stoic teachings, and how did I react? Sharing these experiences and hearing how others deal with similar situations can provide new perspectives and strategies to facilitate deeper reflection. You can also incorporate reflective writing practices or journals. Writing about your experiences and reflections helps solidify your learning and uncover insights that may not be evident through inward thinking alone. Questions such as, what have I learned about myself this month through practicing the Stoic virtues, can guide this writing. By discussing and reflecting on these questions, we are not only deepening our understanding, but also creating a firmer commitment to a lifestyle that values wisdom, virtue, and contentment. These practices of discussion and reflection help us to keep Stoic philosophy alive in our lives, transforming it from a series of abstract concepts to a series of concrete actions that shape our daily reality. As we conclude our exploration of Seneca's teachings and how they can be applied in modern life, it is important to reflect on the profound impact that Stoic philosophy can have on our personal well-being and development. We come to the end of this journey not as someone who finishes a book and puts it aside, but as someone who discovers a map that continually guides the way ahead. The reflections and discussions proposed throughout this process are not mere academic exercises. They are practical tools aimed at our ability to live with purpose, resilience, and contentment. The practice of self-control, the search for virtue, the management of expectations, and the ability to face adversity are all skills that equip us to better deal with the complexities of contemporary life. Now, the invitation is for you to take what you have learned forward. Don't let the ideas and inspirations you gain here dissipate over time. Instead, actively apply them in your daily life. Start small, perhaps by choosing a specific aspect of Stoic philosophy to focus on each week. It could be practicing morning meditation to strengthen self-control, or perhaps taking a moment at the end of each day to reflect on how you have applied or could have applied Seneca's teachings in daily interactions. In addition, I encourage you to share your experiences and learnings with others, whether in conversation with friends and family, by participating in a study group, or even online in forums and social networks. Sharing your journeys not only helps to solidify your own understanding, but can also inspire and motivate others to explore and apply these teachings in their own lives. Finally, stay curious and engaged with your own personal development journey. Stoicism is just one of many schools of thought that offer rich perspectives on how to live well. Explore other philosophies, integrate what resonates with you, and always seek to grow and improve. In a world full of noise and other people's opinions, Stoicism gives us a place to escape, to focus on ourselves. This path is not a way to be alone. Instead, it's a way to deepen our own inner lives and get stronger from the inside out. Stoicism, which has its roots in ancient Greece, tells us that the only way to find true peace is to work on our own strength and wisdom, not on making other people happy. This way of thinking frees us from needing approval from other people and gives us the strength to face any challenge with balance and clarity. We change our lives and the way we interact with the world when we work on our own growth. We will talk about how to use this powerful philosophy in our daily lives in the pages that follow. Join us on this journey toward a more genuine and satisfying life. Come with me on this journey into science. We will learn to live our lives based on our own inner vision instead of what other people think. First, know how valuable you are. An important part of Stoicism is knowing our own worth. Focusing on the inside is a big part of this practice that is very different from how modern society usually works. We live in a time when technology and social media are very important. It's easy to let likes, followers, or the approval of our professional or social circles determine how valuable we are. Stoicism, on the other hand, teaches us to change our sense of self-worth and base it on things inside ourselves that are more stable and long-lasting than anything outside. To get a sense of this idea, it's important to separate our own worth from any kind of outside approval. This doesn't mean we should shut ourselves off or not care what other people think, but it does mean we shouldn't let their opinions determine our sense of self-worth. Self-worth is something that stays the same, not something that changes based on outside factors. According to the Stoics, everyone has their own value, which comes from their own virtues and accomplishments, not from what other people think of them. According to the Stoics, our sense of self-worth should come from our skills and character, not from how popular or well-known we are. While using social networks, it's simple to believe that we're only as good as the most recent picture or achievement we share. But when we think about what we really value in other people and ourselves, it's not usually these surface-level things. Instead, we value traits like honesty, kindness, toughness, and the ability to get through tough times. Stoicism tells us to honestly and regularly evaluate our own qualities in order to boost our sense of self-worth. This is an exercise in self-reflection in which we acknowledge and value our own qualities and efforts. Have you been honest in tough situations? Do you remember to show compassion to others even when it wasn't directly good for you? How have you dealt with problems and setbacks? These questions help us figure out what we're worth. Above and beyond any superficial measures, this honest evaluation is not a way to brag about ourselves. Rather, it is a way to honestly see our strengths and weaknesses. Stoicism says that we should always be trying to get better, and it's just as important to recognize our flaws as it is to celebrate our successes. This helps us stay humble and focused, so we don't give up or become too comfortable. This practice also helps us deal with criticism and rejection better. If our sense of worth comes from inside us and is based on strong personal standards, then other people's negative opinions will not affect us as much. If it's helpful, we'll be able to listen to and learn from criticism without letting it destroy our self-esteem. In the same way, being able to appreciate our own efforts, no matter what the results are outside of us, is very important in life. There are times when we can't control what happens after we do something. Stoicism teaches us to care more about how hard we work and what we want to achieve than how things turn out. Having this view frees us to be determined in our pursuit of our goals without getting attached to outcomes that are often unpredictable and depend on things we can't change. Focusing on our own worth also helps us build relationships that are more real and meaningful. When we don't need other people to approve of us, we can be more authentic and attract people who like us for who we are. This helps people build relationships based on respect and understanding, not neediness or emotional manipulation. Lastly, recognizing and working on our own worth is a powerful way to fight the urge to compare ourselves to others, which happens a lot these days thanks to social media. Recognizing our own worth helps us focus on our own growth instead of always competing with others. Everyone has their own path and struggles. To sum up, Stoicism gives us a way of thinking about our own worth that is both freeing and empowering. It gives us a strong base on which to build a life full of meaning and fulfillment. Second, make it harder to get in. Limiting how much of ourselves we share with others is a key part of living a Stoic life because it helps us keep our personal space and emotional energy. Learning to limit who can see our private lives is important for keeping a healthy balance in our lives in this digital age, where the lines between public and private are becoming less clear. Not being available all the time may seem counterintuitive in a world that values always being connected, but it actually makes people respect and value you more. It's clear that our time and attention are valuable when we say we're not available all the time. This not only makes the times we spend with them more valuable to others, but it also gives us more energy for the interactions we think are most important. This less is more way of thinking helps set and keep clear boundaries, which are important for any healthy relationship, whether it's personal, professional, or even on social media. We don't have to be alone when our availability is limited. We can choose when and how to interact with others. Picking and choosing which interactions to have with each other helps us feel more independent and build stronger, more real relationships based on mutual respect for each other's time and space. Another important part of limiting access to ourselves is keeping our emotional energy safe. It's important to be careful about what you share and with whom you share it in a world where people are telling us to share our thoughts, feelings, and everyday details with everyone. By doing this, we not only keep our privacy safe, but also our mental and emotional health. Focusing on activities and relationships that truly enrich us and bring us joy and satisfaction lets us avoid putting our energy into situations or people that don't make our lives better. This practice of conscious selection and conservation is also good for our overall health and self-esteem in the long run. Focusing on what we really care about and setting aside time and energy for it helps us live a more purposeful life that fits with our Stoic values. This means being able to say no or put off commitments that don't fit with our current needs or goals. Setting healthy limits shows how much we value ourselves and our time. Limiting access is a way to practice self-discipline and prudence, two important Stoic virtues, in a world where virtue and self-control are important. Being careful about when and how we share allows us to live a life that isn't just reactive to what other people want, but also proactive in making an environment that helps our personal and spiritual growth. Finally, by setting these limits, we are showing others how we would like to be treated, which can be used as an example of how to interact with others. To sum up, limiting access is a Stoic practice that not only makes our own lives better, but could also make the world a better place by encouraging people to be more thoughtful and respectful with each other. 3. Pay attention to what you do, not what you say. Stoic philosophy is based on the idea that we should pay more attention to what we do than what we say. Actions not only speak louder than words, but they often show what we really believe, how we act, and who we are. Stoics believe that it is very important to follow what you say. For them, the difference between what someone says and what they do is a very important indicator of their honesty. Focusing on actions instead of words is a good idea that can be used in many areas of personal and professional life. In our personal relationships, like with friends and family, it's easy to say that we care about them, but what we really do shows that we do matter. We might forget what we say or say it in a hurry, but our actions show how we really feel and what's most important to us. A powerful way to figure out how sincere and trustworthy someone is to look at how what they say matches up with what they do. If someone says one thing and does something else, it could mean that their intentions are not as good as they say they are. This evaluation is very important because it helps us choose who to trust and keep close in our personal and professional lives. Building relationships based on real-life events and behaviors not only helps us make more accurate assessments of other people, but it also leads to deeper, longer-lasting connections. Because they are based on reality and not empty promises or shallow statements, relationships that are based on truth and real facts tend to be stronger and better able to handle problems. This preference for actions over words is just as important in the business world. When productivity and efficiency are important at work, what one person does can have an effect. Leaders must be good examples in this area because their actions directly affect the success or failure of the whole organization. They can show they are leaders by doing things that support their statements and visions. People trust and respect a leader who lives up to what they say, and they set an example for everyone else in the organization. Creating an environment where people do things instead of just saying them can have a big effect on the mood and productivity of a group or company. This makes people on the team more responsible. They are not only responsible for doing their jobs, but they are also responsible to their co-workers for keeping their word through their actions. This Stoic way of thinking also helps us become more disciplined and honest. By paying more attention to what we do, we are always judging ourselves and making ourselves better. We try to not only speak and act in a good way, but also be good people. Making a constant effort to match what we say with what we do strengthens our character and makes us more honest and trustworthy. In the end, a practical and grounded way to live a Stoic life is to focus on actions instead of words. We learn to value substance over appearance, truth over rhetoric, and the real over the fake. By living this way, we not only make our own lives better, but we also make the lives of those around us better by creating an atmosphere of trust, respect, and honest truth. 4. Let them invest in you. In Stoic philosophy, it's important to value our own time, attention, and presence. For relationships to be meaningful and healthy, both people must be able to see and value how important you are. Not only does believing in ourselves make us feel better about ourselves, but it also makes other people more likely to invest in us in ways that are meaningful to them emotionally and temporally. This shared investment makes both people feel valued and respected, which leads to relationships that are stronger and last longer. To make a strong bond that lasts, it's important to build relationships where both people are willing to put in time and effort. This is more than just spending time together. It's a real sharing of feelings, energies, and thoughts. When both people in a relationship want to help each other grow and be happy, the relationship gets stronger and can handle problems better. For Stoics, this investment between two people is not just a deal, it's also a way to grow virtues like trust, loyalty, and generosity. Furthermore, knowing our own worth means making it clear how we would like to be treated. This is not a selfish act, it's a statement of how valuable we are. By being clear about what we will and will not put up with in interactions, we not only protect our mental and physical health, but we also teach others how to treat us with respect and care. This clarity is good for everyone because it gets rid of assumptions and misunderstandings that could hurt the relationship. Being aware of how valuable we are and expecting to be treated with respect also boosts our self-esteem. We are more likely to stay away from hurtful or one-sided situations and relationships when we know that we deserve to be treated with respect and care. Instead, we seek out and build relationships that are both supportive and helpful to both parties. This Stoic way of thinking not only makes our lives better, but it also lets us pickier about where and with whom we spend our time and energy. The other hand, getting other people to invest in us also means being open to their efforts and thanks. Being open and thankful for the time and emotional investment others make in you builds bonds and creates an environment where people can help each other. Giving and taking is an important part of having healthy relationships. By recognizing and appreciating what other people do, we not only show that we value them, but we also start a cycle of generosity and appreciation that lasts. In the end, letting others invest in us and doing the same for them shows how interdependent humans are and how important it is to have supportive communities in a world that often values independence and self-sufficiency. It takes wisdom and strength to see the need for connection and help from each other. This helps us build support networks that not only help us when we're down, but also share our successes and happiness with us. To truly follow the Stoic principles of personal courage and mutual respect, we must build these kinds of relationships. Not only that, but we are also making society more caring and connected. 5. Getting ready to walk away in life. Being able to leave behind relationships or situations that don't support our core values is a powerful sign of self-respect and inner strength. With their focus on self-discipline and emotion control, Stoics see walking away not as a loss, but as a brave and smart choice that keeps our integrity and well-being safe. Emotional distance is a very important thing to have for this process. Being emotionally stable is not the same as being cold or indifferent. It means controlling our feelings in a way that allows us to make choices that are in line with our deepest values. With this kind of detachment, we can avoid the needless pain that often comes with bad situations that last a long time. We can stay calm and focused on our personal growth if we learn to emotionally separate ourselves from people or situations that drain us or take our attention away from our path. Taking a step back must be seen as a confirmation of our own worth. If we choose to leave a bad relationship, a bad job, or even bad habits, it means we value our mental, physical, and emotional health more than staying in a situation that makes us feel good but is bad for us. Making this choice is a strong statement of self-worth and dedication to oneself. It can be hard, but it is necessary to build a stronger sense of self-respect. Going your separate ways can also lead to new chances. We make room for new experiences, relationships, and growth that are more in line with who we are and where we want to go when we let go of things we don't need to carry. This is a space for more than just your body or emotions. It's also a space for getting creative and spiritual. When you let go, you often come up with great new ideas and discoveries for yourself. It's important to stress that getting ready to leave someone or something takes practice and awareness. You can't just do it one moment at a time. You often have to go through a process of deep, sometimes painful reflection. As part of getting ready, we need to learn how to spot the signs that a situation isn't working for us anymore, like feeling constantly drained, devalued, or unhappy. Having the self-confidence to trust our own judgment and know that every step backward could be a step towards something much bigger and better is also part of it. In Stoic practice, getting ready to leave a situation can also include the practice of visualization, in which you picture yourself leaving and pay attention to the feelings and thoughts that come up. Additionally, this activity not only gets the person emotionally ready for leaving, but it can also help them understand why they need to do it. To sum up, leaving someone when you need to is a brave thing to do and an important part of growing as a person. We need to know our own values and limits very well and have the strength to act in line with them. By doing this, we not only keep ourselves safe from harm, but we also find new ways to get to places that are more in line with who we really are. This is very important for anyone who wants to live a real and calm life. Sixth, follow our values in your daily life. A Stoic ideal is to live in line with our values. It's also a basic building block for a full and conscious life. At the heart of this practice is making sure that our daily choices and actions are in line with our own morals and values. To do this, we need to always think about what's important to us and have the honesty to make sure that our choices, especially in relationships, are in line with those values. People like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus were Stoics. They taught that virtue is the only real good, and that we should try to live in harmony with nature and reason. In this situation, living in line with our values means not only knowing these moral rules, but also acting in a way that makes them a regular part of our lives. Personal relationships are one of the hardest parts of living a life that is in line with our values. It can be tempting to give up our values in order to avoid conflict or to keep a relationship going that, while loved, may not be good for us morally. But the Stoics remind us how important it is to make hard decisions. When we stand up for our morals in tough situations, we may have to make painful choices, like ending relationships that don't meet these standards. This has a lot to do with the practice of reflecting on oneself. Thinking about our values shouldn't be something we do just once and then forget about. It should be something we do every day. Every so often, we should ask ourselves if the things we do are in line with our deepest values, and think about how our choices affect other people and ourselves. This practice not only helps us stay true to ourselves, but it also makes us feel calm and in sync with ourselves. Being brave to live by our values often takes courage, which is important to remember when things get tough. If we are honest, one of the hardest tests of our character is to stand up for what we believe in, even if it means losing something or someone important to us. But the Stoics say that living a good life is what brings true good and happiness, not having things or being in good situations. It's also important to remember that our values change over time. What we thought was important at one point might not be as important as we think it is now. In other words, living by our values also means being open to change and ready to change what we believe and how we act as we learn and grow. This changing part of personal growth is very important if we don't want to stop growing and become who we are becoming. The way we act in the world is also greatly affected by how we live our lives in line with our values. We set a good example for others and do good things for our community when we choose to live in an honest and moral way. In turn, this makes other people think about their own values and act in ways that are in line with them. As a result, living by our values is not just a matter of being selfish or morally isolating ourselves. It's a promise to live a life that works for the good of everyone and builds a community where people respect, understand, and help each other. So, the Stoic principles are not only a way to live your life, but they can also help make society more fair and caring. To live your life this way, you need to practice, be patient, and often get help. It's not always easy, and we'll make mistakes along the way. True Stoicism, on the other hand, acknowledges that people make mistakes and tells us to learn from them, get over them with grace, and move on with renewed determination and clarity. 7. Love that doesn't depend on anything One of the most noble and difficult ideas to understand is unconditional love. It means loving and accepting other people just the way they are, without any conditions or expectations. With this kind of love, you love yourself as well as other people. Living in a world full of expectations and judgments can be hard, but practicing unconditional love for yourself and others can help you feel safe and accepted. To love someone unconditionally, you have to start with yourself and treat yourself with kindness and acceptance. Many times, we are the worst critics of ourselves. We judge ourselves when we fail, when we don't live up to our own or other people's expectations, or just when we are who we are. To change our attitude to one of unconditional love for ourselves, we have to stop criticizing and judging ourselves. You have to understand that as people, we are flawed and that it's okay to make mistakes and have flaws. This acceptance not only helps people feel good about themselves, but it also leads to real and deep personal growth. When we fully accept ourselves, we let ourselves grow from a place of love instead of fear. Love for yourself without conditions is the first thing that you need to do to love others with the same kind of love. Once we accept our flaws and know what they are, it's easier to accept them in other people. This means that we can relate to and understand those around us better. It's easier to connect with others when we understand that they are also flawed and have their own problems. We learn to accept other people's flaws and limitations when we love them without expecting them to act or react in a certain way. This way of loving makes relationships stronger because it takes away the need to change or be perfect in order to be liked. When people feel like they are accepted just the way they are more likely to share their true selves, which makes relationships deeper and more real. Another benefit is that when people accept each other, it builds trust and safety, so everyone can be open and honest without worrying about being judged or turned down. Love that doesn't depend on anything else changes society too. In a world full of criticism and judgment, showing love to everyone, no matter what, can be a revolutionary act. It can make us question social norms that say only certain kinds of people or actions are okay. When we love without conditions, we help build a culture of acceptance and understanding that can go beyond personal, cultural, and social barriers. But it's not easy to show love that doesn't depend on anything. Being patient, understanding, and most importantly, practicing all the time are all important. Many times, our automatic responses are full of expectations and judgments, both about ourselves and about other people. It might take some time and work to break these patterns, and we might run into problems along the way. It is very good for our mental and emotional health and for our relationships to live from a place of unconditional love. Eighth, don't let someone else take over your whole life. Stoicism is a philosophy that has been around for a very long time. It can help you live a balanced and meaningful life. One of the main ideas behind this philosophy is that people should always be able to make their own decisions, even when they are with their closest friends and family. To do this, you need to have both emotional balance and a plan for keeping your identity in any kind of relationship. This way of thinking comes from the idea that relationships are important for our social and emotional lives, but we shouldn't base our whole lives on them. When we do this, we might become emotionally dependent on them, which can stop us from growing and being happy. Emotional dependence not only changes how we see ourselves, but it can also make the other person feel burdened, creating a cycle of need and expectation that is hard to break in the long run. In this situation, it's important to understand and grow our own interests and passions. Everyone has their own skills, interests and passions that they can and should develop, even if they don't have a partner. We can make our lives better and bring a fuller, happier version of ourselves to our relationships when we take care of these parts of our lives. This makes relationships with other people deeper and more satisfying. Additionally, Stoicism teaches us how to care for our friendships and how important they are. Friendships help us see things from different points of view, cheer us on when we succeed, and give us support when things go wrong. Building strong, meaningful friendships is important for keeping our emotions in check and having a support system outside of our close relationships. This way of doing things not only makes our closest relationships less stressful, but it also makes our social life and emotional life better. On the other hand, making sure that relationships have a healthy balance means that everyone has room to grow. This is very important for a healthy and long-lasting relationship. When both people in a relationship are free and supported to pursue their own interests and growth, the relationship benefits from having two whole people living together. This is not because they can't live without each other, but because they choose to share their happiness with each other. Stoicism helps us remember that we are in charge of our own happiness and growth. Sometimes we lose sight of this basic truth when we put all of our attention on another person. Keeping our independence and working on our personal growth not only makes us stronger when relationships change, but it also helps us build relationships that last longer and are stronger. In the end, Stoicism tells us that we should love because we are strong, not because we have to. When we keep our independence, we choose to be in relationships from a place of wholeness instead of emptiness, which makes them stronger. This way of thinking not only frees us from being emotionally dependent, but it also lets us live a fuller, more varied life, full of hobbies, interests, and friendships that support our close relationships, but don't define them. 9. Don't chase. One important idea that comes up a lot in Stoicism is how important it is to respect and value yourself. How you deal with relationships in which you don't feel valued or respected is a clear example of how these principles work in real life. The idea that you should never go after people who aren't interested or who walk away shows that you have a lot of self-respect. This way of thinking helps people feel good about themselves and frees them from desperately wanting approval or love from other people. When two people aren't interested in the same things, it's easy to fall into the trap of persecuting them, hoping that one day they'll see what you have to offer and value it. But this kind of behavior not only doesn't work, it makes people feel bad about their own self-worth. Stoicism teaches us that just because someone doesn't see how valuable we are doesn't mean we're less valuable. Instead, staying true to yourself and staying away from places where you are not valued is a strong affirmation of your worth. Focusing on personal growth is a much better and more rewarding way to live. By putting time and effort into developing our skills, interests, and health, we not only become better people, but we also become more attractive to people who admire who we are. This is how we attract relationships with people who naturally want to be with us and value our company instead of desperately trying to be liked. The focus shifts to being the best version of yourself, which makes it easier to attract people who share your values and essence. Having faith in your own worth makes you very attractive. People will see and respect our true worth if we show them who we are and what we have to offer. This projection doesn't have to be cocky or bossy. It can just be a quiet confidence in our abilities and worth as people. For those who are sure of their worth, setting standards for how others should treat them is important. In turn, this leads to relationships that are healthier and more balanced, where respecting each other is normal and not the exception. So, the Stoic advice not to pursue people who aren't interested isn't just a way to avoid being turned down. It's an important part of building a life where you respect yourself and attract people who do the same. These principles lead to relationships that are more likely to be deeply satisfying and beneficial for both people. This is because they are based on genuine respect and value, not neediness or insecurity. Being so stoic about relationships and self-worth isn't always easy, especially in a world that often tells us that someone's worth is based on how much love or attention they get from other people. But if we change our focus to self-improvement and self-respect, we not only make our own lives better, but we also make our relationships and interactions better. In this way, respecting ourselves leads to respecting others, and as a result, our lives are better not only with good relationships, but also with more peace and happiness inside. 10th, be careful what you do. According to Stoic philosophy, it is very important to stay within your own clear limits. These limits not only keep our mental and emotional health safe, but they also help us understand how to interact with others. To keep our mental health in good shape and to make sure our relationships are healthy and respectful, we need to set and stick to our own boundaries. We can be very clear about what we will and will not accept from ourselves and from other people when we set these boundaries. A way to show self-respect is to make your boundaries clear through actions. For instance, staying away from or saying no to situations that cross our personal boundaries is not only a way to protect ourselves, but also a lesson for others about how we want to be treated. This act of separating is very important because it sets a standard for how we should interact with each other. People learn over time what behaviors are okay and what behaviors are not okay when we are around, if we are clear and consistent about our boundaries. This not only makes our relationships better by clearing up any confusion, but it also makes stress and disagreements much less likely, which lets us talk to each other more openly and honestly. Also, staying strong when things get tough is an important part of keeping the boundaries we've set. In situations where our limits are being tested, being strong-willed and standing our ground shows that we respect ourselves. This makes us feel better about our own self-worth and makes other people see us as people who deserve respect. According to the Stoics, being firm is not a sign of pride, but a necessity for keeping our interactions healthy and helpful. Self-discipline is another Stoic virtue that we learn and practice when we stick to these limits. According to the Stoics, we should live by reason and keep our emotions and wants in check. By setting and honoring our own limits, we practice this discipline without letting our feelings drive us, but by a clear and well-thought-out knowledge of what is best for us and our relationships. Not only does setting and sticking to boundaries show that we respect ourselves, but it's also an important part of building healthy relationships and keeping our minds healthy. In life, as in Stoicism, boundaries are not limits that hold us back. Instead, they are definitions that keep us safe and let us interact with others in a healthy, peaceful way. We can live a life that is not only in line with our values, but also full of meaningful and enriching interactions if we set and stick to these boundaries all the time. Number 11. How strong no is. In Stoic philosophy and in life in general, one of the most important things you can do is say no. This simple word is important for keeping your integrity and self-respect, even if it's hard to say. People who follow the Stoic philosophy believe that turning down requests or situations that don't fit with our personal values is both a sign of strength and a sign of great self-respect. This respect for ourselves is what lets us live by our deepest beliefs and stay true to ourselves even when other people or societal expectations tell us otherwise. It can be especially hard to say no when it comes to family, friends, co-workers, or people we're close to. In these relationships, we want to please and value the other person the most, which can make us give up on our values to keep the peace or avoid a fight. But it's exactly in these kinds of relationships that it's most important to say no. We can become angry at ourselves, lose respect for ourselves, and hurt the relationship we were trying to protect by giving in to things that go against our core values. In order to stay true to ourselves, we need to set and stick to personal boundaries, even if it makes us feel bad. Not only does saying no at the right time and in the right place free you, it also sets an important relationship standard. People will treat us the way we want to be treated if we make our expectations and limits clear and firm. When we set limits, it's not because we don't care or love each other. Instead, it's because we want our relationship to be healthy and respectful. By being clear about our needs and limits, we give others the tools they need to treat us with more respect and effectiveness. In the context of Stoicism, saying no is also linked to the idea of being wise. Stoics say that to live virtuously, we must be in tune with reason and nature, which means knowing our own needs and limits. Saying no becomes a way to get to know yourself and handle things on your own. Not only do we protect our values and principles by doing this, but we also learn the self-control and discipline we need to not let fleeting urges or the desire to please others take priority over our own health and happiness. Also, learning to say no can have a big effect on how we see ourselves and how other people see us. When we stick to our beliefs and decisions, we boost our own self-esteem and earn the respect of others. Self-respect and honesty that don't change lead to more real and deep relationships, where honesty and respect for each other are normal. In the end, being able to say no is an important skill for anyone who wants to live a calm and good life. If we use this power carefully and wisely, we not only improve our own standing in the world, but we also create a place where honesty and integrity are valued and respected. When we refuse something from a strong and clear place, it's not just a denial, it's a strong affirmation of who we are and what we value. In the big stage of life, learning to say no is a lot like learning to say yes to a more meaningful and satisfying life. 12. A healthy amount of doubt. A key part of Stoic philosophy is to keep a healthy level of skepticism. This means that people shouldn't believe information or claims without first giving them a close look. This kind of skepticism doesn't mean always not believing everything or anyone. Instead, it means using a method of critical and reflective thinking to find the truth and avoid being fooled or making mistakes by believing claims that aren't supported by evidence. A healthy level of skepticism means always weighing the evidence and giving more weight to logic and reason than to feelings or quick reactions. When we don't take claims at face value, we force ourselves to think about and judge every piece of information we get. This way of thinking helps us see things more objectively and keeps us from falling for lies and making mistakes when we take what other people say at face value. When it comes to news or information on social networks, for example, a healthy sense of doubt makes us check the facts, look for more than one source, and wonder why the information is being shared. This is important not only in this age of digital information, but also in our everyday lives, and when we make personal choices, where believing false claims without question can have big effects. Being skeptical is also a very important way to avoid making bad decisions. We can avoid many of the common mistakes people make when they think, like cognitive biases and logical fallacies, by actively questioning information and looking for clarity and consistency. This way of thinking about doubt not only helps us make better decisions, but it also makes us more independent and helps us think for ourselves. A skeptical attitude can help us evaluate proposals and projects at work, finding possible flaws or ways to make things better before they become problems. On a personal level, it helps us think about the advice and opinions that people give us, so we can make decisions that are more in line with our values and best judgments. Using skepticism to help people make better, more informed choices means relying on facts and logic instead of feelings. This way of thinking is especially helpful when our feelings are getting in the way of our judgment, like when we are stressed or in a fight. As an example, being skeptical helps us stay calm and look for solutions based on facts rather than feelings or impulsive actions. This way of doing things not only makes mistakes less likely, but it also helps people talk to each other and solve problems better. So, healthy skepticism is not a call to be cynical or pessimistic. Instead, it is a way to make sense of a complicated world and get things done more quickly and clearly. By taking this approach, we get better at finding the truth, better at resisting manipulation, and better at running our own lives. In this way, Stoic skepticism fits with the goal of living a good life based on knowledge and virtue, where our actions and beliefs are based on a good understanding of the world. A healthy sense of doubt also has a big effect on how we treat other people. By being skeptical during conversations and debates, we can actively listen and better understand other people's points of view, which is very important for building respect and understanding between people. We can use this skill to improve our personal and professional relationships. It also makes us better community members who are useful and effective. When we ask good questions and try to understand, we make conversations in all parts of our lives richer and more useful. Lastly, developing a healthy sense of doubt is an ongoing process of personal growth. To do this, you need to be open-minded, ready to learn and change, and dedicated to the truth above all else. Not only can we live our lives in line with Stoic principles, but this way of thinking also helps us be happier and more fulfilled. Being skeptical in a healthy way leads to a life full of seeking wisdom and truth all the time, which are important parts of Stoic thought and make for a truly fulfilling life. 13. Accept that you aren't perfect. A central idea in Stoic thought is that we should accept flaws in ourselves and others. This idea has a lot to do with how we can live full and honest lives. This acceptance not only frees us from having to live up to impossible standards, but it also makes us more human, which lets us connect with others in a more genuine and deep way. Realizing that we aren't perfect is a form of being honest with ourselves. Acknowledging that we are flawed and that we make mistakes helps us understand ourselves with more compassion. Understanding ourselves is the first step to developing real empathy, because when we know our own struggles, it's easier to relate to those of others. This empathy makes our relationships stronger because it creates an atmosphere where people can help and understand each other. When people feel understood and accepted for what they're not perfect at, it builds trust and safety, which are important for relationships that last. Accepting that mistakes and failures are part of being human has a big effect on how we deal with problems and setbacks in other areas of our lives as well. We don't have to punish ourselves when we don't meet our standards. Instead, we can see mistakes as chances to learn and improve. This way of thinking not only makes us less afraid of failing, but it also makes us more likely to try new things and take risks, because we know that every outcome, success or failure, helps us grow as people. Many of the stresses we put on ourselves in daily life can be eased by realizing that perfection is impossible. Our desire for perfection makes us set goals for ourselves that are not only impossible to reach, but can also be bad for our mental and physical health. We can start to enjoy life more fully, with all of its ups and downs, when we stop trying to be perfect. When we accept things as they are, we can enjoy the little flaws that make life and relationships interesting and full. This way of thinking affects not only how we see ourselves and other people, but also how we deal with the outside world. Learning to see the beauty in things that aren't perfect can be life-changing in a world that often puts looks over substance. It can change how we feel about art, nature, and even the things we buy and use. We can build a more sustainable and respectful culture if we value things not just for how perfect they are, but also for how real they are. In addition, accepting our flaws can change our professional lives. At work, the pressure to do a great job can be too much to handle. But if we understand and accept that making mistakes is a normal part of learning and growing, we can make the workplace more creative and less stressful. When employees don't think they will be punished for making mistakes, they are more likely to think outside the box and come up with new ideas, which is important for progress and new ideas. The other hand, being open to criticism and rejection makes us stronger to deal with them, even though they are painful parts of life. Critiques are meant to help us get better, not hurt us. When we realize that no one is perfect, we can take them more seriously and see them as an opportunity to do so. Also, when we are rejected, whether it's in a personal or professional setting, we can remember that not all incompatibilities show how valuable we are as people. Number 14. Treat yourself with honor. The idea of presenting oneself with dignity comes from Stoic philosophy. It stresses how important it is to be real and honest in all of our interactions. When you act in this way, you're not trying to impress other people with tricks or fake behavior. Instead, you're being true to yourself by acting in a way that shows what you really believe and value. When someone chooses to stay true to themselves, even when it might be tempting to put on a show to please others, that person is being authentic. This choice may seem harder, especially in a world that puts a lot of value on looks over substance, but it is necessary to build a sense of personal dignity. When we refuse to give in to the pressure of social norms that go against our values, we show a dedication to ourselves that is freeing and deeply respectful of who we are. By taking this approach, relationships are built on mutual respect and real understanding, rather than shallow bonds that break down quickly when expectations aren't met. People who know you well tend to be honest and respect you. People may be wary or even unwilling to accept lifestyles or views that are different from yours at first, but this honesty and authenticity, not lying or manipulating, builds a strong foundation for long-lasting, meaningful relationships. Also, treating others with respect means treating yourself with respect. Respecting others not only with words, but also with actions and choices that show you really care about their well-being. This respect shows up in how we listen, how we talk, and how we interact with other people in our community. When we treat others with respect, we not only raise the bar for ourselves, but also for those around us. This creates an atmosphere of mutual support and respect. Being able to treat ourselves with respect also means accepting our flaws and limitations as normal parts of being human. Being honest about our flaws doesn't make us less important. In fact, being able to see and work on our weaknesses often makes other people respect us more. This acceptance makes us humble and easy to talk to, which in turn makes other people feel more at ease and confident when they talk about their own problems and insecurities. The consistency between what we say and what we do is another way that dignity shows itself. When what we do matches what we say, we show that we are honest and earn trust. Being consistent is important in all of our relationships, not just personal ones. It's also important at work and in public. In a world where trust is hard to come by, keeping the trust between what we say and what we do is a strong sign of who we are and how trustworthy we are. Ultimately, Treating ourselves with respect shows that we follow the Stoic principles of being real, honest, and respectful to others. It means making a promise to live in a way that not only earns the respect of others, but also tries to give it to them. By following these principles, we not only make our own lives better, but we also make the lives of those around us better, leaving a legacy of respect, understanding, and honesty that lasts longer than our own lives. So, living with honor is not only a choice we make for ourselves, it's also a gift we give to the world. In this crazy and noisy world, have you ever thought about what the power of silence is? Have you ever thought about what it would mean to know when to hold back your words when the outside world is so loud? It's not enough to just not say anything. We need to turn silence into a powerful tool that gives us the strength to deal with the problems and conflicts that come up in everyday life. But there is a kind of silence that is good for our eyes and minds. We will look at 10 situations where Stoic philosophy tells us to use silence as our best friend to get the life we deserve and deal with problems. We will learn how to use silence to bolster our strength and clear our minds so that we can handle life's toughest situations and our interactions with others with peace and understanding. 1. The mighty strength of silence. According to Stoic philosophy, silence is more than just not speaking. It is a strong sign of a mind that is calm and in control. In this light, silence is an important way to maintain our emotional independence and build our sense of dignity. When Stoics talk about silence, they mean the practice of not saying things that are harmful or unnecessary. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "Never say anything that does not enhance silence." Choosing silence is a wise and self-controlled act that helps us find peace and communicate more clearly and deeply with others. It keeps us from getting into pointless fights that happen when people don't understand each other or have the right information. In a world full of outside pressures and stimuli, silence helps us find inner peace, in addition to keeping us from having harmful conversations. Distancing ourselves from the feelings and thoughts that bother us gives us a chance to think and see things more clearly. It helps us separate ourselves from automatic and emotional responses, which gives us more control over how we feel. Stoics like to pick and choose when to speak and when to keep quiet. This is because they believe they can control how they feel inside when things happen outside of them. It lets us watch our thoughts without being distracted by anything else. Stoics try to understand their own values, motivations, and behaviors better through silence. They then change their actions as needed to live a more moral and meaningful life. Also, when our feelings get in the way of making good decisions, controlling what we say gives us a break to clear our minds and look at all of our options more objectively. 2. Not responding to insults by being quiet. Silence is seen as a strong way to show strength in Stoic philosophy when someone insults you. It's not a passive response. It's an active way to fight the urge to react without thinking, so you don't give power to other people's hurtful words. When we choose to be quiet, we don't add to the negative circle that insults want to start. We show a lot of strength and self-control by not responding in kind. This shows that our dignity and emotional stability are much higher than those who try to put us down with words. The person who is trying to emotionally destabilize us can't do that because we don't care about these bad behaviors. When we don't respond to insults, we weaken the attacker's position. When he sees that we won't give in to his disrespectful game, he often loses interest in continuing to do it. When people try to disrespect us, silence is a strong defense that keeps things from getting worse. It also gives us a chance to think about why people insult us without getting angry or resentful. By staying calm, We give ourselves a chance to figure out if the criticism is true and use that information to improve ourselves. In the event that the insults are not true, the silence helps to boost our self-esteem by reminding us that other people's opinions do not determine our worth. Silence when someone insults you is also a humble and kind thing to do, because getting angry will only make things worse for everyone. By refusing to give in to the easy answer, we not only demonstrate strength of character, but we also demonstrate empathy for the struggles that each person is going through inside. Stoic ideas tell us to control our instincts and become more logical and peaceful, so this is in line with how we should live. People who practice self-control are more likely to keep quiet instead of reacting right away. The words we don't say often have the most power. Not only do they protect our inner peace, but they also have a positive effect on the world around us. 3. Keeping your temper in check by being quiet. Stoic philosophy is based on the idea that we can control our anger through silence. This way of thinking helps us turn negative emotions into chances to grow and think. Instead of getting angry when bad things happen in our daily lives, silence gives us a chance to think about what happened and how we can deal with our feelings in a healthier way. This pause without words is not just the lack of words. It is a deliberate pattern that helps us stop, take a deep breath, and clear our minds. We can choose a response that is in line with our deepest values when we choose silence in situations that used to make us feel overwhelmed. We give ourselves time and space to think more clearly about what's going on and decide on a more thoughtful, less impulsive course of action. This practice also helps us think about ourselves by letting us look into the hidden causes of our anger. When we wait to respond, we give ourselves time to think about things like, is this a reasonable response, or is it just the result of my unmet expectations? When we ask these kinds of questions, we learn more about ourselves and the real-life events that made us angry in the first place. Self-reflection can help us better control our emotions because it teaches us how to recognize and deal with things that make us angry. In turn, silence teaches us to be more patient and tolerant by letting us know that we can only control how we react to other people. Practicing silence in times of conflict can also change our personal and professional relationships by making them more respectful and understanding. We work to make our interactions with others more peaceful. Another great thing about this reflective silence is that by seeing how we act in this way, other people may be motivated to act in similar ways in their own lives, making the world a calmer and better place to be. So, we can see that silence has effects that go beyond us and help those around us as well. 4. Stays quiet when they are criticized in order to encourage a culture of empathy and mutual understanding. Silence in the face of external criticism is a potent demonstration of Stoic philosophy values such as self-control and emotional maturity. When people criticize us without a good reason or with bad intentions, we should choose not to respond. Not only does this protect our honor, but it also brings us more peace and quiet. Showing that we know what really matters, our inner peace and staying true to our values, is an exercise in wisdom and strength. A natural response to negative comments that aren't based on facts might be to stand up for our point of view. However, choosing to be quiet on purpose helps people understand and respect each other. By not responding, we don't mean that we accept or give up, but that we choose not to add to a conversation that might end up being pointless or even harmful. This choice gives us, and the person who tried to hurt us, a chance to think about what they said and how it might have affected others. Let's say you are in a business meeting and you need to talk about a project that is very important to you. When you discuss a new idea with your co-workers, Some of them start to criticize it in a rude and unfounded way instead of recognizing and praising it. What do you think would be your first reaction? Yes, you would probably feel the need to defend yourself and say no again. But what if you follow Stoic ideas and take a moment to think about how to handle the situation in a smarter way? If you don't add to the argument and let things calm down, you make it possible for everyone to have a more productive and cooperative conversation. By showing that you can handle criticism calmly, you earn the respect and admiration of others and give yourself a chance to think about what the best possible response would be. The Stoics teach us not to act on problems right away, but to think about them calmly before deciding what to do. In this way, silence shows the virtue of the Stoics, not as a way to avoid problems, but as a way to face them consciously and proactively. Silence, when faced with tough choices, is number 5. When you have to make a tough choice, silence is more than just a break. It's a safe place to think deeply. This practice, which comes from Stoicism, helps people make decisions based on clear, logical thinking instead of their feelings. By being in this space of silence before making a choice, we can think about what that choice means and get ready for how it will affect us. The process of reflection is a nice balance to the busyness of everyday life. In a world where speed often beats quality, taking a moment to think might not make sense. But it's when we stop and think that we really learn something. Silence is necessary for listening and learning, according to the wise philosopher Epictetus. If you speak, you cannot listen. If you cannot listen, you cannot learn. Silence gives us a chance to think more deeply about all the factors that affect our choices, which helps us figure out what our actions will mean in the long run. It also keeps us from acting quickly when we're under a lot of stress. When we are calm, we can more easily see things from different points of view and consider all the options. This helps us make decisions that are fair and in line with our values and long-term goals. Imagine that you and a loved one are in a medical emergency. Suddenly, you have to make a very important choice. Should you do what the doctor says and agree to the surgery right away, or should you wait a little while longer before making such a big choice? Because of the tight deadline and the seriousness of the situation, you choose to use silence as a way to think deeply. To make the smartest choice possible, you try to calm down for a moment from your emotional turmoil. The thought of a doctor you trust comes to you during that moment of silence and thought. So, you decide to call them and ask what they think about what's going on. And finally, when the doctor gives you advice, you feel better about making a choice because of his or her years of experience. This short but important pause shows how silence can be a powerful way to stop, think, and look for more wisdom in times of trouble. 6th, stop letting things bother you. Getting rid of distractions is an important skill to have, especially when we are in our 30s and 60s. It is very important to learn how to find silence in the midst of all the noise and stress in our lives right now. In history, there are many examples of smart people who use times of stillness and silence to make important decisions and reach their goals. We could look at Mahatma Gandhi as an example. He was known for taking time to reflect and pray. It was very important to the great Indian leader and activist that people were quiet so they could think and reflect. Gandhi thought of silence as more than just the lack of noise. It was a state of inner calm and peace that helped him connect with himself and his higher purpose. Gandhi got the strength and clarity he needed to lead peaceful resistance movements and reach his goals of freedom and justice during his times of silence and thought. So, silence was not only an important part of his spiritual practice, but it was also a powerful tool for his activism and for being an inspiring leader. One wise person, Marcus Aurelius, said, "The wise man finds peace within himself, even amidst the bustle of the outside world. It is in those quiet times that we can sort the noise from the information. When you don't think about anything, your mind is free to plan and see life as a chessboard. Silence frees up our minds to wander and make connections that we might have missed in the noise. Being fully present and focused on the task at hand is part of this deep concentration, which makes you more productive and creative. After a careful pause, every word that is said has a lot of weight. Silence prepares the ground for a decisive action, the first step toward progress. According to the Stoic philosophy, one way to master oneself is to block out outside distractions and focus on what is inside. A planned break that gives us time to think about what's going on and make a choice. Seventh, learn how to talk things out without being heard. In Stoicism, being quiet can be a very useful tool in negotiations. Think about this for a moment. You think your job isn't worth what it's paying you and that you deserve a raise. If you tell your boss about it, he will offer you a salary that is much lower than what you deserve. What are you going to do now? There is a Stoic teaching that says we should pause and think before we respond. This planned break will not only give you time to rearrange your thoughts and come up with a new way to make your case that will make the other side think twice about their offer, but it will also put pressure on the other side, giving them time to think again about their position. As the founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, we follow his lead by listening more and talking less. He knew that real wisdom often lies in reflection. We have a big advantage when we choose silence during negotiations because it lets us control the pace and flow of the conversation. Another important idea in Stoicism is kindness, which shows up in simple but deep acts of compassion and selflessness. When Marcus Aurelius said that kindness is humanity's greatest pleasure, he was expressing how important it is for bringing people together. People who work for social justice and the environment do great acts of kindness. But kindness can also be seen in small things like smiling at someone or offering to help them cross the street. By being kind and communicating calmly, we show that we understand how much our words and actions can affect other people. Stoics know that if we speak less, but more thoughtfully and kindly, it can make our lives and the lives of those around us better. With this in mind, Stoicism tells us to be kind in all its forms and help and care for those around us. Silence draws people. Number 8. Imagine this. You're at an evening event, and the noise of people talking fills the room like bees in a hive. You find yourself there. There is a brief moment of calm in the venue, and everyone looks to see who bursts in. Not with words or over-the-top movements, but by giving off a calm and peaceful vibe that contrasts with the busy and loud surroundings. This event shows how silence can be captivating, drawing people in without them having to say a word. In the same way that it's hard for the teacher to be heard over the constant chatter of students in a classroom, the environment is full of distractions that make it hard to learn. There is silence in the room when the teacher takes a break, though, and the student's attention is quickly caught back. This short moment of silence is a strong reminder that even when things are going crazy, there is a chance to get back on track and involved. In its most basic form, silence embodies Stoicism's wisdom. Not only is there no sound, but there is also a presence that comes from deep inside. When someone is quiet, they not only listen, but they also understand what isn't said and feel what is being said without words. He is not quiet because he wants to be alone. Instead, he is deeply involved with his surroundings. He is often the center of attention and the main focus of any meeting without speaking. Charisma isn't just well-thought-out words or grand gestures. It's also the quiet strength of being present. Not only does a charismatic leader inspire others with his words, but also with his actions, and by giving them power when he talks. His words are carefully chosen and have a big effect. The power of silence can be seen in the smallest actions, such as a genuine smile or a thoughtful touch that gets right to the heart. So practice the silent art of charisma. Being present and being yourself speak louder than what you say. Let your quiet charisma lead the way and change not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. Keep in mind that the stillness of your being has the power to captivate, which is very much in line with the principles of Stoicism. 9. The very old skill of listening carefully. There is a lot of noise in the world, and people are fighting to be heard. But in the middle of all this activity, some choose a different path, one of mindfulness and silence. People who have been tested become experts at listening deeply. Their skill goes beyond the words they use. It also includes the feelings and thoughts that go along with them. They can take in all the information they get and see the world from different points of view because they have this skill. Not only are they heard when they finally speak, but they are also felt. Being able to listen carefully is a valuable skill in personal relationships because it helps people connect and understand each other better. This skill is just as useful in the business world. People who are good at it can see things from different points of view, make tough choices, and settle disagreements with the clarity that only comes from listening. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This quote sums up the skill of deep listening. Accepting the power of silence, letting others speak, and learning from their words can help you find insights and ideas you might have missed otherwise. Let's learn from these people who are listening quietly, because their stillness contains wisdom that speaks for itself. 10. Silence when you choose to be alone. Fear of silence comes from not wanting to be alone and needing approval from others. This makes us constantly look for attention, which weakens our inner strength. But when we accept our loneliness, we find a transformative gift, the power to see ourselves as they really are. Stoicism teaches us to see solitude as a mirror that shows us who we really are and frees us from outside influences. Imagine a teen at school who is constantly looking for acceptance from his peers. Following Stoic ideas, he decides to separate himself from other people's opinions and think about his own worth. He thinks about his progress without comparing himself to other people when he is calm. Now, he decides that his safety comes from how he sees things, not from what other people think of them. This shows how Stoicism can help us find peace when we need it the most. With Seneca's wise teachings, we learn that Stoic philosophy tells us to be happy in the present, which frees us from worrying about the future. The student shows this wisdom by choosing to be alone. This man's inner strength, which comes from having confidence in himself, shows in his ability to be present in silence without wanting approval from others. In this situation, silence enables us to face our true selves without any disguises or decorations. It frees us from the need for approval from other people, so we can find strength and happiness within ourselves no matter what. In the same way that the student did, you can go through life calmly, sure of your readiness and your limitless inner potential. Remember that your success is not based on what other people think or how you look, but on how determined you are and how long you can keep going. Believe in yourself and what you can do, and don't be afraid to go after your dreams with passion and confidence. I want you to use the power of silence in your own life. Let every pause be a chance to expand your inner knowing. Always keep in mind that silence is not emptiness, it is possibility. There, new ideas are born and the strongest connections grow. Soak yourself in it as a friend on your quest for truth and happiness.